Welcome to the Literary Titan podcast. In every episode, we dive into a book we've just read and share our thoughts, from best-selling authors to rising literary stars. We read it. Now let's talk about it.
Teaching What Every Employer Wants argues, with plainness and conviction, that technical proficiency is only half the story, and often not even the half that determines whether a young person will last, grow, or be trusted at work. Author Dr. Ben Clinton's focus is not on abstract, soft skills, but on the visible habits that make skill usable. Showing up prepared, taking feedback without folding in on yourself, working well with others, managing time, solving problems before they metastasize, and learning how to recover after missteps. What gives the book its shape is the way it moves from diagnosis to practice, from the blunt employer refrain of, "We can teach the technical work, we struggle to teach how to show up," into frameworks, classroom routines, and stories drawn from CTE spaces, industry voices, and student growth. It's a practical book, yes, but it's also a quietly moral one, in the best sense. It insists that behavior is not peripheral to education. It's part of what education is for. What I liked most was the book's refusal to hide behind buzzwords. Clinton is especially strong when he translates mushy, overused language into something sharper and more humane. His distinction between labeling a student as lazy and instead naming the missing follow-through is one of several moments where the book becomes more than a workplace manual and starts to feel like an argument for dignity through clarity. I also found the stories persuasive because they're not inflated into inspirational parables. The technically gifted intern who flames out because he can't function on a team, the welding student who finally hears the hard truth that his attitude, not his certification, will get him fired, the quieter student who earns trust by taking notes, asking questions, and cleaning up without being asked. All of that lands because it feels observed rather than manufactured. The prose itself is direct, firm, and often good at the sentence level. It doesn't strain for lyricism, but it has rhythm, and every so often it arrives at a line with real force, like, "Hope is not a strategy," or "Culture is the curriculum," which could have felt like slogans if the book hadn't already earned them. The book is at its strongest when it treats employability as teachable, contextual, and rooted in relationships, especially in its insistence that students need coaching rather than mere correction, and that professionalism should not be reduced to compliance theater. There were moments when I found myself curious about how the book's ideas might stretch even further, especially around the ways class, adolescence, uneven home lives, or institutional rigidity can shape a student's ability to show up well. Clinton does nod to these realities, particularly in his reflections on trust, self-awareness, and the need for structure over shame, and I appreciated that humane undercurrent throughout. The book's steady faith in clarity and consistency gives it a sense of confidence and purpose. That steadiness is part of what makes the book feel so grounded. The later sections, especially the reflections on supporting struggling students and the closing appeal to teachers who are still trying, give the book a humane undertow. It never sneers at students, and it never lets teachers off the hook either. That combination of sympathy and standards is harder to pull off than it looks. I found this an earnest, useful, and more emotionally grounded book than its title first suggests. What it offers instead is clarity, repetition, and conviction, all in service of a simple but consequential idea, that the habits students practice daily become the lives they are later able to build. I finished it feeling that Clinton has written not just a guide for employability, but a defense of deliberate teaching itself, of the patient work of making expectations visible and growth imaginable. I'd recommend it most strongly to CTE teachers, instructional leaders, and anyone working with adolescents on the threshold of adult life. But I think plenty of general educators would recognize their own classrooms in it too. It's a grounded, thoughtful book for people who believe that how we teach is never separate from who students become.
Thanks for joining us on the Literary Titan podcast. If today's review sparked your interest, be sure to pick up a copy of the book and experience it for yourself. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a rating, or share it with a fellow book lover. Until next time, keep reading, not just to escape, but to grow.